Hello, YouTube. From time to time, I'll present available, alas very scant, reports from the archives of the Soviet Commission on Anomalous Phenomena in the Natural Environment. The Russian abbreviation is KAYA. More about this commission I'll tell you later in this video. Today, I'm speaking about a strange flying man or humanoid encountered by a geological expedition in 1969 in one of the steppes, or like plains, savannas of Kazakhstan. The driver, Zinov, reported this in 1984. He was the driver for the expedition. Here's the full text of the letter, almost completely preserving the language of the author, but providing the necessary explanations of the Soviet realities and some of the day-to-day Soviet things that need to be explained. Apparently, this letter was sent to the commission. Here is what the driver wrote. Hello, dear editorial staff. I read an article in your newspaper about UFOs, knowing in advance that you are denying everything and you will not write the truth in general. You will not give me an answer. I will hear from you a short word in response, like, yes, there is, and works on such and such a force of energy. That's all, and no riddles about UFOs or objects that are considered to be UFOs. Because before that, I had already written to the magazine Technika Молодежи, and after that to the television, the program Earth, Space and Universe, which is hosted by hero of the Soviet Union, Cosmonaut Sevastyanov. They gave me such responses. We are not competent to answer such a question. That's all, but I'll try again, because many years have passed since then, and it was in 1969. I worked as a driver for geologist of the GRE-21 Leningrad Party. The base of the expedition was located in Agadir, not far from Karaganda, and it was so. We were located near the village of Jambul. I was sent to Karajal for gasoline with 5 barrels. A geologist went with me, a Muscovite who graduated from the institute in Moscow in the spring. It was necessary to go to the airport and pick up his girlfriend there, who flew from Moscow to the party, geological party, to work. She also graduated from this institute. They were from the Moscow Geological Party. On September 10, we set off, arrived in Karajal, filled up the barrels with gasoline, drove through the village of Shalginsky, where uranium ore is mined in an open way. There we also received food. It was already dark. We dropped by the airport and picked up the Muscovite, and there was also a fellow traveler with her, as Kazakh female laboratory assistant at a mining and processing plant, who wanted to come home with us to visit her mother and father, who lived in the village of Jambul. There are mines there, but they did not work, and even I do not know what they mined there. They said that they would eventually be opened. So now the 4 of us in the cab or cabin of the truck, in violation of all the rules, we drove to the village of Jambul. We reached the village of Shalginsky and could not find the road we were driving along in the morning. The geologist looked at the map and said, let's go straight down this road. We'll also get home. Well, we moved on up, and from here the ride is about 2.5 hours on GAZ 63 truck along the old road. And here we're going for the night. The time has already run out. We have covered 150 kilometers and there's nothing. We're confused and no one can find out the way. That's where our most interesting part of the story begins. We were driving along a dirt road. We saw a star burning on the side, and as usual, as it happens at military units. We turned off and straight across the steppe drove to the star. But when we got closer, there were ditches and a forest. We overcame this obstacle and attack, and there was a path sprinkled with sand and smooth. Even the trace of a person will be visible, not just vehicles traces. My God told me we got into some kind of a zone, meaning secret zone. So let's drive through it. Let's drive around it. There are such tracks everywhere. Naturally, we always got on our own track of the vehicle tread pattern. And during this time, we continuously chased the star. It would light up in one place, then in another. We went to the square inside the zone. There are like 5 corners here. The gasoline in the tank ran out. We poured gasoline from the barrels, from the truck body where it was located, drove off a little along one of the roads, bushes on the left, forest ahead. Here we stopped until the morning, when it will be light to sort it all out. We couldn't even find a way to leave. So the lamp is lit in the cabin. We sit, eat apples. There were no other food products. Sitting down, I looked back at my door window, and here's a miracle. In front of me is the one we were chasing so hard. It turned out to be a motorcycle with a cradle and 2 soldiers inside. And one of them raises a pole, and a star is burning on it. I was glad that now we can find out how to leave. I opened the door and ran to them and shout for help. When they saw me, they removed their star, backed up on a motorcycle, and were gone. I realized that the facility in the zone was military, but I don't know why they did not help us. I returned to the cabin. We continued to wait for the dawn, and it's about to come. And then the most important thing began. From the beginning to the end, I believed that it was our soldiers who came to our aid, but by another means of transportation. So sitting in the cabin, I was constantly looking around. I wanted to encounter my star. It was not there, but an object appeared in the night sky, strongly glowing and rapidly approaching in our direction. But there was no alarm in me yet. You never know what is glowing, so I looked back 2 more times and I realized it was flying straight at us from the rear side and was rapidly descending. Then I got on the footrest and shouted to my fellow travelers to leave the cabin quickly. I say, something is flying straight into the body, and there is gasoline in the truck body. Only the Kazakh female managed to get out. She was on the Muscovite's lap, and the geologist was sitting next to me. And this glowing thing flew over the truck body with a whistle. And I continued to stand on the footrest. The arms are spread to the side. The legs are stretched out of the object that was flying. In general, he flew horizontally to the ground above the cabin. He flew 0.5 meters, so I noticed something behind his back. Flying over the vehicle and 25 meters from the vehicle, he landed facing us. I turned on the headlights. He was visible to all of us well. The geologist says, let's get closer to him. We began to approach him quietly. There were 5 meters left before him, and he soared up and hovered at once, and then abruptly flew to the side. He stood vertically to the ground without even swinging, landed again, and faced us again. And here I turned the vehicle around so that the light from the headlights fell on him. and after driving a little, I stopped. Now the geologist says, go to him and ask him the way. I got out of the truck's cabin and walked towards him. Before reaching about a meter from him, I stretched out my hand to greet, to say hello. I tell him hello. He doesn't give me his hand. Both arms are pressed to his torso. Well, I bend down with my head right to him and look right next to him and look into his helmet. Only two pupils or eye points shone from there. And at that moment he soared up so fast that I didn't even understand anything right away. Where he went, I think. I looked up and he was hovering over my head. He wouldn't even move if I raised my hands. I could pull him back freely by both legs, but since he was our soldier, I didn't show any rudeness. He hung in the air. I stand and look at him, realizing that there was nothing to expect from him. I shouted to him, listen, comrade, please tell us the way. We got lost. There's no answer. But I saw he slowly turned around and began to fly towards me. Then the idea came to me to follow him as he flies. I ran up to the vehicle. The fellow traveler party. They saw how he answered me. I say nothing, but I'll go after him. That's how we go. And he flies. And then we wanted to see what he had behind him. I picked up speed, and now he's already over our hood. He was flying low, and we clung to the windshield, but he gave such a speed that he immediately went up to the slope, moving away from us. Then he slowed down, and so we followed him, drove out onto the road. The sun was already beginning to rise, and he was still flying, now clearly rising up, but facing us. We drove out onto the road, stopped, and began to observe what would happen next. Having risen to the clouds, suddenly we see that he was completely enveloped in some kind of fog. Then it split into two, and he was gone. It happened between two small clouds standing close to each other. Here the geologist determined that we had missed our village by 150 kilometers and needed to go back. All the way we looked at these two clouds formed from it. The students asked, what was it? I say, how should I? The driver, no, you studied in Moscow. You should know more. So I have a question on what kind of energy he could fly on, and so abruptly changed the movement under 180 degrees at high speed. But even his body did not swing a drop. His body was vertical to the ground. Later, the head of the geological party, talking to us, spoke out, why you were not arrested? You were in the area of the secret facility. And that's the obstacle to the solution of the riddle. A little bit about him, the flying man. My height is 169 centimeters. Thin. Well, he was like my height. He was thin. His overalls are tightly wrapped, silvery wave-like, starting from the legs and arms. Only the fingers were not highlighted. Next, the helmet is oval in shape, but inside there is still a rectangular frame, apparently also made of glass. In short, eye protection, because this frame ends at the level of the tip of the nose, maybe a little higher. Further, when I was standing under it, I did not feel anything. Wind pressure, even the slightest sound or whistle, light, any propulsion, no screw, nozzle, would not be able to work like that. In general, it's a mystery. If everything happened again now, I wouldn't make a mistake, but would catch him by his legs and pull down to the ground. In short, in any case, I would not let myself be evaded. And there was no secret to me. And with such a device, probably, there are many professions where it's easy to apply. If you don't know, then don't give an answer. If at least we or the Americans have something like this, then please, at the expense of what force could he do such tricks? Goodbye. With respect to you, Zinov Nikolai Pavlovich, and then there is an addition to the letter. Now I am 51 years old. Before that, I sailed the seas, worked on the Volga, Kama, Belaya rivers. In general, have traveled throughout the Soviet Union, all around. But I have not been to Kamchatka, Sakhalin. I served in the armed forces in Khabarovsk. I have been to Central Asia, the Caucasus, Ukraine, and worked in Murmansk. And letters I received from the magazine Technika Молодежи and Znania have been preserved, but I undertook to write to you. There was an article in Sovietskaya Rossiya that a committee on the physical phenomena was organized. I thought, true, it's not a physical phenomenon, what I saw, but maybe it will do. If you know, of course, there is no secret for you, but for us, the little people, everything is a secret. Dated September 30, 1984. So let me add to this very interesting story. To give you some background, on February 28, 1984, by the decision of academician Laskorin, chairman of the Committee on Environmental Problems of the All-Union Council of Scientific and Technical Societies of the USSR, the Commission on Anomalous Phenomena in the Environment, KAYA, was formed, which lasted until 1990. Over the years, KAYA branches in Moscow, Leningrad, Gorky, Kiev, and Novosibirsk have received about 13,000 reports of anomalous phenomena. The main purpose of the KAYA was to collect information about anomalous aerial phenomena or aerospace phenomena and anomalous aerospace phenomena on the territory of the USSR. As you can see in the Soviet Union, this desire to learn and find out what the population sees that is unusual in the sky was implemented decades before the United States. Due to the fact that some of the communications received by the KAYA were only evidence of rocket launches, artificial satellites, Soviet satellites, experiments with barium, sodium, and other artificial luminous clouds, ICO. They were often filtered out as insignificant for the UFO research. Letters could also be rejected for other reasons, when it was possible to establish that it was not a paranormal but a terrestrial phenomenon. Due to the fact that they were uninformative letters, letters from contactees, letters with questions and a desire to enter into correspondence, and so forth. You can find out more about the history of Soviet UFO research, secret and independent, in my books and videos. You can also find my lectures. I find the Soviet research to be much more exciting than what has been taking place in the United States. Very interesting. It was a totalitarian country, but at the same time, as I underscore in my lectures, there were developments that could not be even fathomed in the United States, despite all the hoopla taking place right now in Washington. Anyway, we will be really surprised when the secret files are declassified, if this ever happens. Now, I want to give you comments by Sergei Yefimov, candidate of physical and mathematical scientists, former scientific secretary of the Commission on Nuclear Power Engineering at the Academy of Sciences of Kazakhstan, from 1990 to 2004. Many years ago, he sent me a letter on another subject about UFOs. Yefimov was a tenacious, argumentative, questioning, disbelieving, and so forth, and I truly respect him for that. He was not a vicious debunker out to belittle ufologists or shut me up, like some try to do in the United States since I began publishing my articles in the early 1990s. Something scares them, something that I bring out in my information. These bureaucrats and nothing doers, maybe that's the right word. But I do not agree with Yefimov's conclusion here. Nevertheless, here's what he said. The villages of Jambul and Shalginsky, the city of Karajal, can also be found on the modern map of Kazakhstan. Shalginsky is located 60 kilometers west of Jambul. Judging by the letter, everything happened on the night of September 10 to 11. The first UFO. The UFO that flew over the vehicle looked like a man with his arms, wings, spread out to the sides, and he was whistling. The second UFO. The soldiers that landed did not make any sounds, was dressed in tight silver jumpsuit, and almost all the time of observation, about an hour, hovered, flew in the air with his arms pressed to his torso, feet down. It is not at all a fact that it was the same as the first UFO. The soldier quickly and unequivocally parried attempts to drive up to him by vehicle, keeping the same distance. So could behave, for example, distant artificial clouds that ascended as a result of scientific or military experiments in the upper atmosphere. The result. The Flying Soldier from 1969 is a very spectacular case, but unsubstantiated in both senses. There are grounds to suspect a training area, but all the lack of accurate data on military activities and some oddities in the eyewitness's story make the identification only presumptive. However, there is also no evidence of interference by other intelligent beings. The glowing figure did not say a word and refused to shake hands with the Soviet driver. This being, let's say, he only let people out on the road where they most likely would have got there so easily in the morning. According to the totality of actions, this does not look like an attempt to contact, whether a UFO is a flying humanoid or a soulless cloud of gases in the atmosphere. That's what Yefimov concluded. Look, I would hope we find out more about this flying humanoid from the year 1969, but again, certain secret files need to be opened. However, there is more that I'll tell you about Kazakhstan, a truly amazing land when it comes to UFOs and certain paranormal phenomena, as well as secrets of the Soviet experiments. And please see my playlist Central Asia in the description to this video to learn what I've already presented, my research about Kazakhstan. I guarantee you will like it. And wait for more documents and reports from the Kaya archives and other sources when it comes to Soviet and Russian ufology. It's tremendously interesting subject. The Soviet Union was the largest country on this planet, just like Russia is today. And, we have had history of UFO sightings and encounters for millennia. So, trust me, it's a very interesting subject. If you like my research and can support my research, you can do so. You'll find out how to do it in the links in the description to this video. Please tell others about my channel so the world understands that UFOs don't just hover over the United States, but there is a whole wide area outside of the borders of North America, largest country. Please put likes on my videos and subscribe to my channel, and thank you for your attention to my work.